Have you ever walked away from someone feeling like a part of you just disappeared? You sat down fine, but after the conversation you're exhausted, heavy, foggy, irritated for no reason, and you ask yourself, why do I always feel this way after seeing them? That's not random. That's not your imagination. That is energetic drainage. And the person responsible might be what philosophers today call an energy vampire. No, not with fangs or capes. They don't suck blood. They siphon energy, your focus, your clarity, your peace. They thrive on proximity to your light, but give nothing back. They speak in the language of need, drama, guilt, or flattery. And before you even realize what's happening, you're drained, distracted, and unsure of who you are again. In today's episode, we're going to expose this dynamic, not with fear, but with Stoic awareness. Because while the term energy vampire might sound spiritual or psychological, the truth is, it's a human pattern as old as time. The Stoics saw it in emperors, lovers, even friends. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But what happens when someone else starts painting your soul for you? What happens when your peace begins to take on the hue of someone else's chaos? This video is not about blaming others. It's about noticing the patterns and reclaiming your mind before it becomes someone else's emotional feeding ground. You don't need rituals. You don't need revenge. You need clarity. Let's uncover the signs. Let's learn how to protect your energy, not through superstition, but through Stoic strength. Because once you see the drain, you stop the leak. Let's begin. What are energy vampires, and why Stoics recognize them without using that name? So what exactly is an energy vampire? It's not a spiritual label, it's a pattern of behavior. An energy vampire is a person who feeds off your attention, your empathy, or your presence. Not to build connection, but to fill their own internal void. They don't always intend harm. Sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it, but their effect on you is undeniable. You feel tired after being around them. You start second-guessing yourself. You feel obligated to fix them, soothe them, or be smaller around them. And over time, your light gets dimmed. Not because they stole it, but because you kept handing it over. Now here's the Stoic truth. The ancients didn't use the term energy vampire, but they absolutely understood the phenomenon. They wrote about people who lacked reason, who stirred chaos, who projected their inner instability outward. Seneca warned of being contaminated by the company of the confused. Marcus Aurelius reminded us to avoid those who are not in harmony with themselves. Why? Because the Stoics knew something crucial. Your clarity is vulnerable to the chaos of others if you don't defend it. They believe that the company you keep doesn't just shape your day, it shapes your judgment. And when judgment is warped, suffering follows. You begin to take on burdens that aren't yours. You feel responsible for moods you didn't cause. You apologize for things you didn't do. And slowly you shrink to protect the other person's instability. That's not compassion. That's energetic compliance. Stoicism invites you to meet this pattern not with cold detachment, but with firm observation. To say, I see what's happening. I will not join the chaos. Because when someone is emotionally bleeding and you throw away your clarity to stop it, now there are two people bleeding, and no one wins. The Stoics taught that the best gift you can offer the world is your stable mind. So in the next sections, we'll look at the signs, not to demonize others, but to sharpen your perception. Because once you name the pattern, you regain your choice. And in a world of invisible influence, choice is power. Sign 1. You always feel tired after being with them. The first, and often most ignored, sign of an energy vampire is simple. You always feel tired after being around them. Not bored, not socially drained. Tired, like something in you got unplugged. You could have been feeling fine all day. Then one coffee, one phone call, one innocent catch-up with them, and suddenly you feel like collapsing. You tell yourself, maybe I'm just low energy today, or maybe I didn't sleep well. But if this pattern keeps repeating with one particular person, that's not a coincidence. That's a signal. Energy vampires rarely scream. They subtly extract, not through direct attack, but through conversation that centers on endless problems that never resolve, dramatic emotional swings that trap your empathy, guilt-laced compliments that confuse your instincts. They rarely ask how you're doing, and when they do, they immediately reroute the conversation back to themselves. You're not connecting, you're hosting, and hosting requires energy. What makes this so dangerous is that it doesn't feel harmful. It feels normal. It feels like you're being a good friend. But if being good leaves you depleted every single time, then something is out of balance. And the Stoics were obsessed with her balance. They believed that we are entrusted with energy not to give it away freely, but to use it intentionally. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." He didn't say associate with everyone. He said choose wisely. And Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Translation, your energy isn't stolen, it's given, often without realizing. So here's the test. After time with someone, ask yourself, do I feel lighter or heavier, clearer or more confused, energized or silently agitated? If the answer leans toward depletion, that's not just a personality mismatch. That's a pattern of extraction. And your body is telling you what your logic has been trained to dismiss. So stop dismissing it. Start listening. Because energy doesn't lie, and exhaustion is never neutral. Sign 2, they control through need, guilt, or emotional chaos. Energy vampires don't always control through power. Sometimes they control through helplessness. They dominate the room, not by being loud, but by becoming the emotional center of gravity. Everything starts to revolve around their problems, their crises, their chaos, and the tool they use, emotional manipulation. It can look like constantly needing just a minute of your time that turns into an hour. Telling you no one else understands me to bind you through guilt. Overreacting to minor boundaries, making you feel like the villain. And the most dangerous part? They often play the victim so convincingly that you feel like the selfish one for needing space. Stoically speaking, this is the collapse of boundaries. It's not just someone needing help, it's someone attaching to you so deeply they begin using your energy to manage their emotions and punishing you when you pull back. You might start editing your words so they don't spiral. You avoid expressing your needs to protect theirs. And slowly, your life becomes about managing their inner storms. Marcus Aurelius said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. But if someone keeps pulling your thoughts toward guilt, exhaustion, or confusion, then your soul begins to reflect their chaos, not your truth. This is where Stoicism becomes your lifeline. It reminds you, you are not responsible for regulating someone else's nervous system. You are not cruel for having limits. And silence is not betrayal, it's clarity. When someone uses their pain to avoid personal responsibility, they'll frame your detachment as abandonment. They'll say you're cold, selfish, or not the same anymore. That's not truth. That's pressure. And pressure, when masked as connection, becomes the fastest way to drain you. Here's what the Stoics would do. They wouldn't argue. They wouldn't defend. They would observe. And they would return to this central principle. You always have the power to choose your response. So choose peace over guilt. Choose clarity over chaos. Choose truth over obligation. Because if connection requires emotional collapse, it's not connection, it's control. Sign 3, your life gets messy after they enter it. One of the clearest signs of an energy vampire is not what happens during your time with them, it's what happens after. Your schedule falls apart. Your mind feels cluttered. You miss deadlines, sleep worse, or find yourself in random conflict. Things were going smoothly until they re-entered your life. Coincidence? Maybe once. But when the pattern repeats, when every time you reconnect with them, your life becomes disorganized, chaotic, or emotionally heavy. That's not just a personality clash. That's a disruption. Stoics would call this the disturbance of order, a red flag, because the Stoics believe that the mind seeks euthymia, a state of calm, purposeful flow, inner direction, undisturbed by outside noise. And when someone's presence consistently disrupts that state, it's worth examining not their intent, but their impact. You may notice you spend more time recovering from them than enjoying them. You delay your own plans to help them with theirs. Constantly, you feel creatively blocked, mentally fogged, or spiritually dull after interaction. It's like they carry a static with them. And every time they speak, that static spills into your field. But here's the thing, they may not be malicious. They may not even be aware. And yet your life becomes harder every time they step into it. That's a sign. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to observe cause and effect, especially in relationships. He wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." When your strength begins to erode, don't only look inward. Look at what's around you. Who entered your life just before the chaos began? Who always seems to show up when things are going well, only for things to fall apart? If the same person is at the center of repeated confusion, it's time to stop calling it bad luck. It's time to start calling it what it is, a drain. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your peace, and not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Sometimes the only reason for their presence is to teach you how to guard your clarity. So listen to the mess, because chaos doesn't lie, even when people do. Stoic insight, they are not the problem. Your response is. Here's a hard truth. The energy vampire is not the real threat. Your mind response to them is. Stoicism doesn't waste time labeling people as good or bad. It asks, what did I allow? What did I internalize? What did I choose? Because as draining as someone may be, they only hold power if you give them access to your mind, your emotions, your inner rhythm. The Stoics taught that the external cannot harm the internal, unless the internal consents to chaos. Marcus Aurelius said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." That doesn't mean denying reality. It means refusing to build a home inside someone else's storm. Ask yourself, do I over-explain myself around this person? Do I shrink my joy to match their sadness? Do I absorb their crisis as if it's my duty to fix it? If so, that's not their manipulation. That's your emotional overreach. That's your nervous system trying to be a shield for someone else's battlefield. And here's where Stoicism becomes radically empowering. You don't need them to change. You don't need closure. You don't need permission to protect your energy. You need clarity. Clarity that says, I will no longer make myself small to make someone else comfortable. I will no longer confuse access with connection. I will no longer call overexertion compassion, because the truth is, energy vampires don't steal. They attract your unguarded generosity. And while their patterns matter, your patterns matter more. The person who drains you once is a problem. The person who drains you repeatedly, with your permission, is a mirror. And that mirror shows you where your boundaries leak, where your people-pleasing overrides your peace, where your fear of being too cold makes you a sponge for chaos. The Stoics remind us, don't fight people. Train your responses. That's where your freedom lives. Not in controlling others, but in controlling the doorway to your mind. Who enters, who stays, and who is lovingly, but firmly, escorted out. The filter, how to identify who gets access to your energy. You don't need to cut everyone out of your life, but you do need a filter. Key, not a wall, not a fortress. A filter built on awareness, standards, and alignment. The Stoics didn't preach isolation, they preached discernment. Epictetus taught, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Not your guilt, not your confusion, not your exhaustion, your best. So how do you build that filter? Start here. Camera starts. 1. Energy audit after interaction. After time with someone, ask, do I feel recharged or depleted? Inspired or foggy? Clear or subtly obligated? Don't explain their behavior. Observe your state. Chakra 2. Track recurring disruptions. Are there people who only show up when they need something? Who trigger the same inner collapse every time? Patterns don't lie, even if personalities do. 3. Notice how you behave around them. Are you more reactive? Do you become smaller to avoid conflict? Do you hide parts of yourself? That's not chemistry, that's self-abandonment. 4. Look at your boundaries, not theirs. Are you the one always adjusting, always bending, always giving one more chance? A Stoic knows, every time you overextend to keep someone in your life, you teach your nervous system that peace must be earned, and that belief drains you faster than any person ever could. This filter isn't about judgment, it's about alignment. You're not rejecting people, you're rejecting patterns that don't serve your clarity. The Stoic version of love is firm, not fragile. It doesn't tolerate what violates the soul, no matter how long you've known them. Your energy is a finite resource. Not everyone gets a pass to sit near your fire. Some people were meant to stand at the edge of your circle, not because they're bad, but because you finally realized your peace is not community property. It is your responsibility and your right to guard it. Energy practice. How to restore yourself after being drained. After an energy vampire encounter, you may feel foggy, irritated, or emotionally hollow. Not because of what they said, but because of what you gave, unconsciously. So how do you get your energy back? The answer isn't magic. It's not crystals or chants or rituals. It's something much harder and much more powerful. Deliberate self-restoration. Here's how the Stoics would do it. Number 1, detach without apology. Leave the conversation, step away, go silent, not as punishment, but as preservation. Marcus Aurelius didn't argue with fools. He walked past them internally. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. You don't owe an exit speech. You owe yourself stillness. Number 2, return to your rhythm. Energy drains when you abandon your structure. Get back to your simple anchors. Wake up at the same time. Do one thing without multitasking. Sit in silence for 5 minutes, just breathing. Discipline rebuilds the walls that chaos breaks down. Number 3, write what happened, but not why. Don't explain their behavior. Document the facts. What was said? How did you feel after? What was disrupted? This is emotional housekeeping. You don't heal by rationalizing their storm. You heal by naming how it hit your shores. Number 4, clean your space, reclaim your clarity. Even if they're gone, their residue might remain, not spiritually, psychologically. Wipe the surfaces, rearrange your room, change the air, open a window. The Stoics believed that external order breeds internal order. Your environment is a mirror, so make it clean enough for your mind to see itself again. Number 5, say something firm, even just to yourself. You don't need mantras. You need personal truth. Say, this person's pain is not my responsibility. I can care and still say no. My peace is not up for debate. Your nervous system hears you, and the more often you speak from center, the faster you return to it. Restoration is not a vibe. It's a choice. And when someone drains you, the real damage isn't what they take. It's when you stop showing up for yourself. So return, not in anger, not in guilt. Return in alignment. Because you weren't built to carry everyone's shadows. You were built to guard your light. Realignment, resetting boundaries and reclaiming self-authority. Once you've been drained and once you've restored your energy, the next step is where transformation truly begins. Realignment. This means not just avoiding what harms you, but restructuring your life around what protects you. And that starts with one powerful decision. I am no longer available for what depletes me. That's not cruelty, that's sovereignty. The Stoics didn't teach live and let live. They taught live with integrity. They didn't glorify tolerance. They glorified clarity of purpose. Epictetus said, know what you want and be prepared to let go of everything else. So if peace is what you want, build a life that supports peace. That means saying no with less explanation, ending conversations that turn manipulative, protecting your schedule from energy demands that don't serve your mission. But more than anything, it means trusting yourself again. Because energy vampires don't just deplete your vitality, they shake your confidence in your own intuition. You start wondering, was I too harsh? Maybe I'm just sensitive. What if I'm wrong about them? And that self-doubt is where boundaries dissolve. So realignment means reestablishing the truth of your own perception. It means recognizing that your body noticed the danger before your mind did. And that awareness isn't a flaw, it's a survival tool. Let's be practical. Write down your non-negotiables. How much access do people get to your time? How do you want to feel after a conversation? What is the cost of ignoring your instincts? Now set behavior that matches those answers. That is Stoic boundaries. In action, not reactive walls, but calm, consistent lines. And remember, you don't need to explain your healing to those who benefited from your confusion. Some people thrived when you didn't know how to say no. Your clarity may offend them. Let it. Because every time you choose alignment over accommodation, you reclaim your life, not from them, but from the parts of you that thought you had to give yourself away to stay safe. That is authority. That is self-respect. That is Stoicism, alive in your behavior. You were not meant to be drained. You were not born to be tired all the time. You were not designed to live in constant emotional debt. You were not meant to twist yourself in diversions that make other people comfortable while your own soul quietly starves. If you've ever left a conversation more confused than when you entered it, if you've ever apologized for setting a boundary, if you've ever stayed silent to avoid causing problems, you're not weak. You're waking up. You're noticing what your mind was taught to ignore, but what your body has known all along, that some people don't come to connect. They come to consume. But here's the good news. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to return to your center. That's the Stoic way. Clarity over chaos, choice over compulsion, peace over guilt. The moment you realize your energy is sacred, you stop giving it to those who treat it like a convenience. So here's your next step. Audit your circle. Reclaim your routines. Rebuild your inner stillness without apology. Let the confused misunderstand you. Let the entitled think you've changed. Let the takers look elsewhere. Because this isn't about being nice anymore. It's about being whole. It's about standing in your truth so clearly that no one ever questions your light again. And if they do, that's not your problem to solve. That's their shadow to sit with. You're here to protect the fire within. So protect it. Let it burn clean, focused, undisturbed. Because you were not meant to be drained. You were meant to discern, decide, and rise. How to maintain your Stoic shield daily. Rituals of reason. It's one thing to recognize the drain. It's another to stop it. But the real mastery, preventing it without losing your compassion, your connection, or your calm. That's where the Stoic shield becomes a daily discipline, not just a reaction to crisis. Because energy vampires aren't just people, they're patterns. They're conversations that go too far. They're responsibilities you didn't agree to, but carry anyway. They're the quiet erosion of your center in the name of being available. So how do you stay clear? Not once, but mine daily. The Stoics didn't have crystals or affirmations. They had rituals of reason. Here are 5 daily practices grounded in Stoicism that maintain your internal shield. Number 1, morning mental rehearsal. Marcus Aurelius began his day by imagining what he might face. Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence. Why? Not to feel negative, but to be prepared. Take 2 minutes each morning and ask, what emotions may come my way today? Who might try to pull from me? And how will I stay centered? This is mental armor, woven from awareness, not anxiety. Number 2, the 5-minute pause before replying. Energy is often lost in fast reactions. Before you reply to a difficult message, pause, reread, step back, ask, is this worthy of my full attention? You don't need to ghost people. You need to stop ghosting yourself in the name of being nice. Number 3, the daily disconnect. Schedule 15 to 30 minutes daily where you don't answer messages, don't consume emotional content, don't process anyone else's needs. This is not selfishness. This is stoic withdrawal to return to your inner court. In silence, you remember what's yours. Number 4, evening energy inventory. Seneca asked himself nightly, what bad habit did I overcome? What progress did I make? Do the same, but with energy. Who uplifted me today? What interaction drained me? Where did I lose presence? And why? This is not guilt, it's a rapid data for tomorrow's clarity. Number 5, the Stoic sentence. Keep one phrase on your wall, your mirror, your phone lock screen. Something like, my peace is mine to protect. I choose what enters my mind. Stillness is power. Why? Because repetition builds recognition, and recognition becomes protection. None of this is dramatic. None of it requires retreating into a cave or cutting everyone off. This is ordinary clarity. Daily moments of reconnection that keep you grounded in your values, so that emotional chaos never has a place to park in your mind. The Stoic shield isn't for battle, it's for daily alignment. It reminds you, you don't have to be reactive to be powerful. You don't have to explain your calm. You just have to keep choosing it, day by day, one breath, one boundary, one clear, centered thought at a time. If this video reminded you of someone or of a version of yourself that you're ready to outgrow, let me know in the comments. Just write, I reclaim my energy. And if this spoke to you, share it with someone who needs this truth. Subscribe for more Stoic content that brings strength to the spirit. Until next time, stay grounded, stay sovereign, stay lit from within.